Hi there, guys. God bless you, and thank you for joining us. Hoping that you've been able to read a few of the headlines that we've been about in our community posts. You read all about it. You can read all about it, and the extra 30 odd end time headlines there for you guys, just to sort of like start you off on your day. Also, it's only a few more days now until our sort of brothers and sisters down under are literally going to have to sort of like prove identity or sort of like surrender to the digital ID when it comes to just accessing YouTube and Google and some other sort of social media posts. So to try and accommodate that need, we've started to put some of the stuff over in on our Telegram channel. You'll find sort of like 13,000 sort of like articles and 900 videos and pictures and memes, and that's being added to daily, just so that our kind of brothers down there can sort of like have something to, you know, sort of like access. Today, going to be looking at an article coming out from Expose News. This one is titled "Britain is halfway into the Great Reset," and here's the proof. Our too cool for school Dr. Vernon Coleman is going to sort of like lead us home with this particular article, and just going to give you a little bit of a refresh before we begin in that, just in terms of like, you know, re-identifying you, if that's allowed to be said, with the Great Reset and what that all includes. And so here we go, guys. We know that this was all around the 70s that Klaus Schwab started up the World Economic Forum. The founder and executive director, who's now sort of like stood down, Larry Fink, now is the CEO as interim. The epicenter of evil in our world today, driving humanity into the Great Reset, technocratic tyranny. This is what this is all really going in and around, using the powerful new technologies of the fourth industrial revolution to force the survivors of this engineered destruction of all we have known of life into his transhumanist cybernetic nightmare. Remember him, you know, Klaus Schwab saying, well, you know, you're all going to have brain chips. And then you've got, you know, Yuval Noah Harari saying, the next type of surveillance is going on under your skin. This merging with biology and technology, the transhumanist way, all distorting the image of God. You've only got to look at their sort of like logo in the WEF to find the, you know, 666 pride of place right there. This continues. The Great Reset is the globalist elite plan to subjugate the people of the world. This threat is an overview of what is currently happening in the world and why it's happening. One of their many methods of achieving their plan is through a monopoly. BlackRock is now the fourth branch of government because it's the only private agency that closely works with the central banks. BlackRock lends money to the central banks, but it's also the advisor, and they develop the software the central bank uses. Larry Fink is only a puppet. It's the shareholders who own Vanguard who actually pull the strings. It's the 1% of the elites who rule the world, guys. The Orsini, the Bushes, the royal family, the Rothschilds, the Morgan, Rockefeller, DuPont, Vanderbilt, you know, the Bilderbergers, the Club of Rome's, and these lists continue. Foundations, also known as non-profit, is the link between company, politics, and medias to conceal the conflict of interest. But the objective of the non-profit is to help the profiting company to profit. So when you've got the likes of, you know, some of their personalities, they'll have their Idris Elbas and their Leonardo DiCaprios. They'll also have their sort of like Nicole Kidmans, and then most recently as well, you've got, you know, David Beckham also stepping into this, and also Prince William and obviously King Charles, all literal puppeteers of the World Economic Forum. Here, continuing, the advantages of the non-profit for these guys are they do not need to disclose who their donors are. They can invest the money in the way that they see fit. They do not pay taxes as long as the profits are reinvested into projects. This is how non-profits keep hundreds of billions of dollars amongst themselves, and is an ideal way to finance anti-American and anti-Christian values. And it is also a phenomenal way of money laundering. the most important philanthropists that connect all industry in the world, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, George Soros Open Society Foundations, the Clinton Foundations, Peter Thiel, BlackRock, and according to the WEF websites, the Gates Foundation is the biggest sponsor of the World Health Organization, and that was after President Trump withdrew the USA financial support of the World Health Organization in 2020. The Gates Foundation is the biggest sponsor, but also is the most important entity when it comes to your health. And they work closely with the big pharma companies, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, BioNTech, and more. Bill Gates came from a philanthropist family whom his dad works for the absolute elites, Planned Parenthood. His Microsoft company is owned by Vanguard, BlackRock, and Berkshire Hathaway Inc., which Berkshire Hathaway Inc. is owned by BlackRock and the Bill and Melinda Gates. Do you see how this all works? The reason so many people do not know what is truly going on is these corporations not only make all the programs, but they own the channels that broadcast the propaganda. So not only the industry, but the information and the flow of information is always being controlled by the elites. This Build Back Better. And what's really sort of like interesting, isn't it? When you lowercase the Build Back Better, that's 666 right there in the lowercase b. Yeah, this big, beautiful bill as well from Trump, again, is a 666 right out there in the making. So this Build Back Better, which is literally a case of just burning everything down, tearing everything down, and then literally sort of like, you know, putting it back together as you see so fits, is a globalist elite's way to play on the people's emotions and fears, to get them on board to comply, to usher in Agenda 2030, also known as the New World Order, also known as the Great Reset. The Great Reset is people being enslaved by the system, but will work for the system and will never own anything. We are seeing, are we not? I hope you've been able to see just through some of our sort of like pictures and things that we put up in the morning, this real drive when it comes to humanoid robots, when it comes to AI literally taking over the workforce, and huge unemployment is said to be in on its way. We are becoming an endangered species, and we are soon to be obsolete. This is their agenda. This, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. The WEF 2030 agenda is not sustainable for civilization. COVID was the pandemic to usher in the New World Order, and the next phase is the Green New Deals. Whether COVID came from the Wuhan lab in China or the biolabs in Ukraine, it cannot be disputed that it was man-made and intentionally released. None of this could have happened without all of the morons that the globalist elites have installed, i.e. in the United Nations, the World Health Organization, Big Pharma, NIH, CDC, FDA, and not only that, but the President of the United States of America. But leaders around the world, etc., these people have no regards at all for human life. They promoted a virus that had a 99.98% survival rate to lock down countries around the world. They were able also to destroy economies, kill livelihoods, decimate small businesses that people worked their whole life to achieve, murdered people with their hospital protocols and denying early treatment. They divided families and friends with their fear tactics. If all wasn't bad enough, they pushed the deadly COVID jab to kill even more people. And if anyone spoke out and tried to expose them, they would silence them by suspending all of their accounts on their media platforms. This is our seventh channel. Our God-given freedom enumerated in the Constitution and in also the Article 10 and our inalienable rights were suspended without due process by the elites using their puppets to manipulate the mass. They could not get everyone to comply in taking the COVID-19 jab. So now they must make us sick through foods, through the spraying of chemtrails, for the weaponizing of the water, as well as everything else when it comes to the technologies that are literally sort of microwaving our brains as well. Big Pharma does not make money if we are healthy, guys. It's a win-win for the globalists, because if we are sick, they profit. And if we die, they would achieve their depopulation agenda. The only way they can achieve their end goal is if we were to comply. Remember, we are that 99% and they are the 1%. The reason they need to control us is because they fear that we will wake up, and they will know, if enough people end up waking up, that their whole system will collapse. This great reset needs to be the great resist. Just want to put some things in here relating to what the Agenda 2030 is and what we need to be saying in and about it. We need to be saying no to a great reset, no to Agenda 2030, no to central bank digital currencies, no to digital IDs, no to the 7 Sustainable Development Goals, no to eating the bugs, no to 15-minute cities and ghettos, no for taking my car, no for taking my pets, no taking my gas stove, no transitioning my kids, no neural implants, no AI global surveillance, no global AI brain. We will never, ever submit and yield to that. And under the guise of climate change, which is the biggest lie of all, and terms like Build Back Better, big, beautiful bills, the international bankers, through various front organizations, being the UN, the WEF, and the WHO, are attempting to install a totalitarian one world government to rule over everything and everyone on this planet, including every one of us. Do not fall for it. Research UN Agenda 2030. I'll put the sort of like list up, and we'll go over that actually in a moment. The Great Reset. It's inconceivable what these guys have got in store for us. So let's have a little look at some of those, shall we? This New World Order. They are wanting the 2030 goals. This is their mission goals. And you just see how, as I go through them, whether we'll go check, all right? One world government. That's one of their goals. Check, that's done, isn't it? One world cashless currency. That's nearly there, isn't it? Okay, the war on sort of like cash and how they're sort of like using that and punishing people for taking that. One world central bank, that's getting very close with CBDCs and the digital euro. One world military, well, it only takes the Club of Rome's sort of like, drive over the line with, Trump taking out Canada and Greenland. There's the first one. And then the EU bloc, okay, and the UK rejoining that. The end of national sovereignty. This is what all of the flooding of the open borders literally is. The end of all privately owned property. That's going to be happening soon as all of these places are being bought up. The end of the family unit. Isn't that being destroyed when you're taking away parental authority and responsibility? The universal basic income. Aren't we seeing that over here in the UK? You've got universal credit. That's not too far away from this, is it? Microchip society for purchasing, travel, tracking, and controlling. Well, they've done that to our pets already. Where does the Bible say this is all heading? The implementation of a world social credit score system like China. Are we not seeing that with a reward and punishment, based upon compliance? You can't see that through our sort of like stats and our growth and everything pertaining to that. I can't help you. Trillions of appliances hooked into the 5G monitoring system, the Internet of Things. Government raising your children. Well, that's quite easy to do when they have more time with them than you do. Government owned and controlled schools, colleges, university, dictating to the masses their agenda and their curriculum. The end of private transportation, owning cars, etc. Yeah, well, that will be the case when they put you on these ULEZ, ultra low emission zones, and they'll, restrict your movements, and you're only able to travel once every 3 years, 1,500 kilometers. They'll do that. Here, all businesses owned by government corporations. That's the case when it comes to privatization, the restriction of non-essential air travel. Yeah, but they're making that really sort of like unappealing as well, aren't they? When it comes down to actually sort of like having to surrender all of your biometrics. So when I was in America last year, I had to give my fingerprints, I had to have my face scan, iris scan, everything. And I went through the front gate. Human beings being concentrated into human settlement zones and cities. So this is their agenda, guys. And it only takes a dirty bomb here or a few nukes dropped here and there. Then everyone's got to have all of these sort of like vaccines all of a sudden with skin melting off and all of that sort of stuff. And they'll say, oh no, the sort of like nature and the open spaces are too toxic for you. It'll be just like it was in the Close Encounters of a Third Kind. Do you know what I mean? When driving around seeing dead animals everywhere. They tried it with the dead people, didn't they, in the first few weeks, just to shock everybody into compliance. Same thing's going to be happening here as well, herding people in to those places. And people will be so mugged off thinking, oh, great, it's all right. We're going to a nice 15-minute city. Oh, we've seen the brochure. We've seen the adverts, all of this technology that's all there. Oh, it's great. And just like they deceived the Jews as well by saying, oh, don't worry, your luggage will sort of like follow you later. And they were literally locked in. And then the second they were taken off, wow, what a shock to the senses. And they were dead within an hour. Talking about these education camps, these death camps, labor camps. It's why they don't want people in and around in the rural areas, because they don't want people to be seeing all of these monstrosities. Just as much as what was happening, you know, during World War II as well. So much of that, you know, people knew that this was going on. But the scale of all of this wasn't really realized until much after. So that's where I suspect things are going. You pinpoint a few of those in and around everywhere. There's your travel down. This is it. They can, you know, crash stuff with a cyber attack, inside job, you know, all of that 9/11 and false flag black swan in it. And it's done, isn't it? They can push all of these over the line, change and reset the whole monetary system. So possible. So when we're looking at these goals, we're 5 years away, or, you know, just nearly with this. The end of irrigation, the end of private farms and graven livestock. Look what they're doing when it comes to that. Articles coming out today, guys, that we were looking at around how the government is literally just giving up all of this land for real estate development, or solar panels, or wind farms, and all that nonsense. Taking away people's ability to be able to have this, you know, waging war on agriculture with this net zero lie. God destroys the earth, not man. And the climate lie, we keep saying it, is the beast system's GoFundMe project. Yeah, with trillions at his disposal. So it'll be the end of also the single family homes, restricted land use that serves human needs. Well, there you go. We've had that, haven't we? And then the ban of natural non-synthetic drugs and natural pathetic medicine. It's a great way for these guys to literally do that, isn't it? This one world government. Are we not seeing that? Just want to read some more things here. And this is part of also what they are intending to do, you know, when it comes to the Club of Rome. All right, Klaus Schwab has been very vocal when it comes to, you know, sort of like him being the one that gave them the opportunity when it came to it being of the 70s. This is the Club of Rome that created the climate lie. This is the Club of Rome that basically, you know, really drove the depopulation agenda. And this is also the Club of Rome that wants to divide the world into 10 kingdoms as per the holy word of God, as was given to the prophet Daniel. We talked about kingdom number 1, did we not? The North American Union. And that is Canada, that is the US, and that is also Greenland. Number 2 is the European Union. That includes Britain and the Nordic states and most of Europe. Then you've got the Japan-European Union, which is in 3. It's probably the smallest of all of them. Then number 4, the Pacific Union. Okay, that includes Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. So when people start talking about the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, wrong. That's the diversion. That's the distraction. This is what's happening. Okay, because the South Africa is actually in the 4th sort of like kingdom, which is the Pacific Kingdom. Number 5, the Asia Cooperation Dialogue. That's probably one of the biggest. That includes, you know, sort of like a little bit of, you know, Europe, and then you've got all of Russia, all of China, all of that. Then you've got number six, the South American Union. Here you've got, excuse me, I can't. Here, sorry, I beg your pardon. 6 is the South American Union. That's where you've got Venezuela. That's also where you've got Brazil. Okay, so Brazil isn't part of BRICS in this sense. It's part of the Club of Rome's agenda. Then you've got number 7, which is the Arab Custom Union. That includes all of North Africa and the entire Middle East. Then you've got the African Union, which is basically the remainder of Africa. That's the 8th kingdom. The 9th kingdom, okay, is literally all of like Singapore, little bits of India, all of those sort of like, islands in and above, Malaysia and Indonesia, over the north of Australia. Then you've got Shanghai Cooperation Group, last of all, which is literally sort of like, little bits of India and maybe a bit of Pakistan there as well. So this is what these guys are wanting to do when it comes to carving up the world. All right. So when we've been saying for quite some time over here on the channel, we've been looking at a huge amount pertaining to the Great Reset and the World Economic Forum, really emphasizing owning around Klaus Schwab and Davos, as well as the one world, sort of like currency, how that's all come into shape, as well as, the one world religion, Abrahamia or Chrislam as well. Some call this a conspiracy, but I want to read out what John F. Kennedy said around these ruthless conspiracies. Quote, "For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence on infiltration instead of invasion." Who said that? Klaus Schwab. We like to infiltrate those governments. On subversion instead of election. Well, we just decide what we want, don't we? On intimidation instead of free choice. We'll coerce and we'll manipulate you. On guerrillas by night instead of armies by day, all in the shadow places. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. That is the New World UN globalist communist order of one world government. And we read, don't we, in Revelation 17:13, they are all of one mind and will give their power unto the beast. Are we not seeing this? I've got some really interesting sort of like pictures. It's a shame, guys, I can't, sort of like flip this around for you at this particular moment, but I'll put those in the post for you. Just some absolutely phenomenal finds as I was digging for this interview today. And this is what Klaus Schwab had to say, famously in his COVID-19, The Great Reset book. Quote, "At least 4 billion useless eaters shall be eliminated by the year 2050 by means of limited wars, organized epidemics of fatal rapid acting diseases and starvation. Energy, food and water shall be kept at subsistence levels for the non-elites." Yeah, these are the guys that want to turn around and control of the food and the water and say that water isn't a human right. It continues. So energy, food and water to be kept at subsistence level for the non-elite, starting with the white populations of Western Europe and North America, and then spreading to other races. The population of Canada, Western Europe, and the United States will be decimated more rapidly than any of the other continents until the world population reaches a manageable level of 1 billion, of which 500 million will consist of Chinese and Japanese races, selected because they are people who have been regimented for centuries and who are accustomed to obeying authority without question. From the time there shall be artificially contrived food and artificially contrived water shortages and medical care to remind the masses that their very existence depends on the goodwill of the Committee of 300. In his own words. And this is what, and Trump's also on his way to Davos in January. Either you limit government or your government starts to limit you. All of this is a literal, destruction is intentional. Just want to read out what Yuval Noah Harari was saying. Yuval Noah Harari spills the beans. We just don't need the vast majority of the population. Technology will make it possible to replace the people. What have we been saying most recently about AI and robots? Which is why we cover that in our searches, so that you can just see how far and wide this is. When you've got literally, kind of like Amazon, and they've been laying off 600,000 people right before Christmas. Top World Economic Forum advisor Yuval Harari has declared in a recent interview that the vast majority of the world's 7.5 billion people are simply no longer needed due to technological advances in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and bioengineering. Inconceivable when you really think about this, isn't it? And for some people, that's really hard for them to get their heads in and around. I would really strongly encourage you to go over to our Rumble accounts as well as our Telegram there. You will find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos all around the World Economic Forum, all around one world government, one world religion, and one world currency. It is our sort of like, main subject of looking at this. And we expose that beast system here, guys. We don't bow down to the beast system, its rules, its regulations, or its guidelines. We do not do that. But I just want to read why some people have a real problem. And I want to challenge some people on the other side of this screen pertaining to their cognitive dissidence. This is why people get upset when their beliefs are challenged. A mental conflict occurs when beliefs are contradicted by new information. This conflict activates areas of the brain involved in personal identity and emotional response to threats. The brain's alarms go off when a person feels threatened on a deeply personal and emotional level, causing them to shut down and disregard any rational evidence that contradicts what they have previously regarded as a truth. And they've fallen for a lie and they've chosen to be deceived. They want to bury their head in information. But it's also the beast information, hell-bent against all of us when it comes to information wars, disinformation, misinformation. They are the ones that want to turn around and say this is lie and this is truth and this is truth, this is lie, this is sweet, this is bitter. Woe to those that call evil good and good evil, as we read in Isaiah, do we not? So since Larry Fink took over the helm from Klaus Schwab, 14 nations signed WEF chemtrail treaty to apparently improve humanity by intensifying sky spraying operation. Larry Fink also famously turned around and said, within the first week or two of being in office, Larry Fink warns that resistance to the World Economic Forum, Black Rock, means certain death. Black Rock, Larry Fink seizes WEF throne as the Great Reset, which is where we are literally halfway through, is now entering, in his words, the enforcement phase. We're going to look now, guys, into actually how Britain as a country is having some of that. But I'd like to check in with you guys, see how you're doing. God bless you. Thank you for being here. 45 of you. That's great. Thank you. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Wenkai. Hi, One. Good to see you. Hi, Crazy Oki. Hi, Panda. Panda. Hi, blessings. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Rebecca. Good to see you guys. Hi, Sanguine. Good to have you with us. Welcome, all of you. Let's just crack on with this, shall we? Here we go. This is an article coming out from Expose News. All right, really great resource for you guys. But this is also coming from Too Cool to Be, for the school, sort of our dear brother, Dr. Vernon Coleman. Love this guy. Here we go. Britain is halfway into the Great Reset. And here's the proof. Britain is being pushed into the Great Reset, with the government introducing new laws to limit freedom, and the economy is being deliberately destroyed through excessive taxation and wasteful spending. Dr. Vernon Coleman writes, how are the Great Reset conspirators able to implement their plan so easily, because Adolf Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves, David Lammy et al. Are all corrupt. They're all Fabian Marxists as well. If you don't know much about the Fabians, please do see our video pertaining to that on our Rumble channel, and you'll find their logo really interesting when it comes to a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's not telling. Oof. Anyway, continuing. After a brutal takedown of Starmer, Reeves, and in particular Lammy, Dr. Coleman concludes the Labour government is shameless, greedy, and self-serving, and ministers seem to consider that they are entitled to do whatever they like to the country which has given them power. These are the people we are expected to trust. I wouldn't trust any one of them to clean a car without stealing the wing mirrors. See that what I mean? It's really interesting. When you break trust, what else is it that you're able and capable of lying about? When you're being deceiving, this is sort of like, oh, we want to get everybody's trust back on. We want to control the information. We want to censor and come up with all these laws, pretends that we want to save children and that we're going to terrorize them, euthanize them, drink their adrenalized blood, stick them into the sex trade. We're going to confuse their identity and genders from such a young age so they come back from school throwing up rainbows. Yeah, we really care about the kids. We do not. Lying to them when it comes to the curriculum, distorting them, telling them that these are the guys that need to go out into the world and fix the planet because Father God did such a terrible job apparently. These guys are not trustworthy in any way. And that's part of what we do. We expose the beast system, but we also expose the beast system's character, his personality, how he operates, how he functions. It's a valuable part of that. We are children of the light, and we will expose. Here we go. Dr. Vernon Coleman. The idea that life was better then than it is now is widely derided as merely an example of nostalgia winning over reality. But you don't have to look through the retroscope while wearing rose-tinted spectacles to realize that things really were better, actually, in the 50s, 60s, or even 70 years ago. The older I get, the more bewildered I become by the contrast between then and now. A year or two ago, I decided that healthcare was at its best in the 70s when GPs, often pastoral in style, visited patients in their homes and were available on call day and night for every day of the year, including Christmas Day. But it isn't just healthcare that was way back better in the 70s. Everything was better then. Today we live in persistent and unremitting and often terrifying chaos. To the naive and innocent, the chaos is a result of incompetency, greed, as well as indifference. But the chaos isn't accidental. It is a rather result of the malignant aspirations and lethal actions of conspirators who want to control our lives. The 70s were better than today, and so were the 60s and the 50s. I am now convinced that life in the 50s was safer, kinder, and in every way better than life today. And as we head into the second quarter of the 21st century, I can't remember when I last heard a politician tell the truth. And I can't think of anyone in public life whom I actually admire. We live in a world of chaos and misery and fear, but none of the chaos and misery is happening in isolation or by accident. The old are persuaded to hate the young. The young are persuaded to hate the old. Men and women are put at loggerheads. Racial tension is deliberately created, and so on and so on. It's all part of a plan. The plan, as I've been saying for decades, nothing is happening by accident because there are no coincidences. Whenever a government does anything which seems strange or inexplicable, all you have to do is ask yourself, how does this fit in with the agenda? Or how does this benefit the conspirators? You will quickly find yourself understanding exactly what is happening then and why. We are in a race to net zero, and from there into inhumane, unimaginable horrors of the Great Reset. And we're already halfway there, guys. The clue is that everything bad is happening everywhere in every country. Revelation 17:13, they are all of one mind. So, digitalization, social credit schemes, euthanasia, rewilding, food shortages, all are happening all around the world. Economies are deliberately being crashed everywhere. Politicians around the world seem incompetent or crooked or both. I find it impossible to name one leading politician in the world who doesn't match that description. Everyone else is literally controlled opposition. Undemocratic organizations led by unelected individuals are taking more and more power. Fear is being used as a tool to create obedience and compliance. New laws are being introduced to limit our freedom, though we are, of course, told that they are being introduced to protect us in some curious way from some imagined or created threats. The European Union, created by World War II's leftover Nazis, don't forget, and the UK are desperate for the Third World War to start. They are doing everything they can to stop the peace process in Ukraine. They want more war. They know that a nice big war is the quickest way to kill a few 100 million. They claim that Russia wants to invade Europe and Britain. Why? Why on earth would Russia want to invade countries which have massive debts, too many immigrants, and no natural resources? And are they really worth stealing? What do Britain, France, and Germany have that Russia could possibly covet? The new laws are introduced so fast that the police even cannot keep up with them. And the victims of wrongful arrests have been paid big chunks of money. Tax legislation is now so absurdly complicated that even tax inspectors don't understand what the rules are. And Britain is in the vanguard of countries being pushed remorselessly into the Great Reset. It is clear to me that Britain is being run by a cabinet of sociopaths who care nothing for the people who elected them and pay them, but puts all their efforts into pleasing the conspirators who now control everything. So when Keir Starmer is asked, who do you prefer, Davos or Westminster? What was his reply? Davos, in a heartbeat. And yet at least 95% of the population have no idea what is happening to them or how the future is going to look. So for me, guys, what I've been saying, the whole world's got to look like China before we're out here. And look at how fast that's coming. If you live outside the UK, you should get down on your knees and give thanks that you don't live in the UK. Even Canadians and Australians are better off than the British. Even the French are better off than the British. In the UK, where I'm unfortunate enough to live and work, I feel as though I'm living in France in the 40s. A member of the resistance almost, fighting bad people who have taken over my country. The evidence that we are living in a constructed nightmare is absolutely unavoidable. The people pretending to run the country, but themselves being run by manipulative conspirators, make Joe Biden and Boris Johnson look like saints, and that takes some doing. The recent Labour government budget announced last week proves to me without a shadow of a doubt that the Labour Party's plan is to destroy Britain. You've got to destroy the national sovereignty and its identity for it to join a European bloc. And these are the guys that want to lay down wreaths and things at memorials on November. Yeah. The hypocrisy of that as they take away all the freedoms that brave men and women did. And also, you know, some of the old boys that turn around saying, yeah, really wasn't worth it, us dying through the war. Look what they're doing now. You've got the whole sort of like of the European Union being run by, you know, Nazis. Same as what you've got over in NASA as well. They're given sanctuary. Nazi party never ever surrendered, just so you know. Still in operation. Why would we want to join individuals like that? Continuing with this. The budget was, it seems to many, based on a fraud. Reeves and Starmer knew that it wasn't necessary to take another 26 billion in tax, but they took it anyway. Was it, I wonder, the biggest financial fraud in history? Oh, you've got to pay your masters. You've got to pay the beast system. Labour's policy is to tax everyone who works and give billions away in benefits to skivers and immigrants. It seems to me that the Labour government exists solely to waste taxpayers' hard-earned money, to create bankruptcy and unemployment, to destroy the economy and destroy people's lives. Rachel Reeves' budget gave so much money to out-of-work skivers that a working family would need to earn $71,000 a year to beat the income of a family on benefits. Immigrants with 10 children are $20,000 a year better off after the Labour budget. The people organising small boats to bring in immigrants will have to buy bigger boats. When does the invasion end? When Britain has standing room only. So families who don't earn 71,000, roughly twice the average wage, would be better off if they gave up work and sat at home watching TV and played video games all day. There is now a real incentive to give up work and become a professional layabout. Jobless mothers rejoicing in a budget which will give them thousands and thousands of pounds of free money every year have sworn to have more children so that they are given more tax-free money. And how much of that money will be spent on children and how much will that be spent on Netflix? The long-term plan is obviously to bring in universal benefits or universal basic income, whereby everyone receives a small weekly payment from the state and stays at home and watches TV, totally dependent upon the state for absolutely everything. The only people with jobs will be the politicians and the civil servants. Everything else will be done by computers and robots as the population is cut by 90%. Everyone with an interest in finance, except for politicians, and in particular those politicians involved in managing a nation's money, knows that if you increase taxes too much, the resulting amount of money raised will fall rather than rise. Unbelievable. Britain's fake governments, a Vichy government for the conspirators, must know this. Surely no one can be as stupid or as incompetent or as dishonest and immoral as Starmer and Reeves appeared to be. On the 26th of November this year, Reeves delivered a budget which many believe was based all on a lie. Reeves stole 26 billion from taxpayers on the basis that the 26 billion was needed to balance a black hole in the accounts. And so Reeves took another 26 billion in a bizarre smorgasbord of taxes, even though it seems clear that the tax grab would push hundreds of thousands of companies into bankruptcy and millions into long-term unemployment. It was a budget designed to destroy and to delight the conspirators. But I think that there was more to this budget. I think it was part of the conspirators' plan to destroy the British economy and therefore to destroy Britain itself. It seems possible that the budget was based on a fraud that would put an entrepreneur in court. Britain doesn't have a big black financial hole after all. Naturally, when confronted, both Starmer and Reeves denied everything. Deny. They weren't there at the time. The dog ate the accounts. It wasn't Rachel Reeves who delivered the budget. It was some AI fake. No one in politics takes responsibility anymore. They deny again, even though they know that no one believes the denials. So he's talking quite a lot about the money here. Starmer wants government-appointed judges to decide who is guilty and who isn't. The automatic right to appeal will be lost if Lammy gets his way. If that doesn't reek of WFEF influence, then what does? abolishing juries and replacing them with selected judges fits in exactly with the conspirators' plans. And they're saying that they're wanting to do this to get rid of all the backlogs with the courts. You're not going to have any juries. No. One person will decide your fate. So all it would take is one of you guys to make a complaint about our ministry, and then you'd have my county or my, sort of like local state as such would turn around, throw me into court. I'd be in front of one person, and that's it. I'm done. I'm in a black hole forever. This is where this is all heading. Here are some things you might not know about the appalling Lammy, Britain's Ministry of Justice, and the man who wants to change the tradition of right defendants to be tried by a jury of their peers. I'm going to leave that out, actually. I'm not going to read that out. There's a lot of stuff here pertaining to that. Here we go. Starmer and Reeves, Lammy et al. Are the people ruining Britain. They have already taken us a good way into the Great Reset. Britain is heading for bankruptcy. There is no real healthcare. The transport systems have collapsed. The justice system has been destroyed. Farming is finished. Our seas and rivers are full of sewage. Britain's absurd and cruel energy crisis has been deliberately created by the sanctions on Russia, the closure of North Sea exploration, and the utterly wicked net zero policy. Most old people on the British state pension receive very little amounts of money. The Labour government is shameless, greedy, and self-serving, and ministers seem to consider that they are entitled to do whatever they like to the country which has given them the power. These are the people who we are expected to trust. If Starmer and Reeves stay in control much longer, then Britain will find itself under the management of the International Monetary Fund. Believe me, that won't be fun. The pavements of our towns and our cities will be backed with sorry-looking people clutching small pieces of cardboard upon which are scrawling begging messages. They will starve to death because they won't be able to be left any money for food at all. Please don't think I'm kidding, I'm not. And please remember all the other predictions and forecasts that have been made over the last few decades and how they seem to just come to fruition. And of course, we must remember that Starmer, the worst political leader any country has ever had, seems desperate to unravel Brexit and take us back into the European Union, an organization which has been proved was created by the Nazis and is, with the exception of the United Nations, the most dangerous, oppressive, and undemocratic organization in the world. Sad times, guys. I put that article in there for you. This was Dr. Vernon Coleman writing in and around Britain is halfway into the Great Reset. Here's the proof. Just want to see what some of you guys have got to say. Bless you. Hi, Bride of Christ. Blessings to you as well. Hi, Robert. Yeah, it's good to see you all here, and I'm wishing you all well in your struggle. England has been a long-standing part of the US, and it's hard watching you guys go through all of this. It's awful. It's awful. You know, you're living in that anxiety of like, are they going to kick down my door? Every day I wake up and I'm like, is the channel going to be there still? I'm telling you, they've arrested more people in this country, and I put more posts up and more things pertaining to earning myself to be thrown away for a decade or two. So this government is literally all around. You can't pray here, you can't preach here. It's evil, it's dark, it's oppressive, it's so gloomy. Everything's been weaponized against you. And to do this to your own people as well. Not even Hitler did that. Do you know what I mean? Awful. Yeah, most of us in the US are asleep. They don't realize it's coming to America too. Absolutely well said, Nina. It is. It's en route to you guys. It's just coming at it from a different angle. It is slowly creeping in. And there's Five Eyes that we've been speaking out about as well recently here on our channel. You know, those 5 nations, Canada, US, Britain, New Zealand, and Australia, all seem to be having all similar rollout, you know, policies, laws, you know, when it comes to sort of like censorship, when it comes to digital ID, when it comes to technology, when it comes to waging war on either your own population or your neighbors. Inconceivable. It's heading to everywhere. And this is what I keep trying to say to people. It's why I'm sorry to say I believe that we're here longer, because it's going to come to every nation. When every single country is literally like China, and it's going to get to that point of like, you know, total massacre and head cutting off, then we're out of here. We're going to be rescued, guys. Yeah, exactly. I was hoping that the 100-year-old veteran was on the guy's television saying that the war wasn't worth it. Absolutely. What a horrible thing, a sad thing for him to have to say. How true. These guys that literally, you know, want to ignore what's being sprayed, like the police forces want to ignore what's being sprayed overhead. They want to ignore what's being put in these vaccines. They want to ignore what's going on when it comes to, you know, kind of like the weaponizing of the food and the water. They want to take away our rights to protest. They want to take away our freedoms to speak. Inconceivable evil, inconceivable. These guys that want to wear these uniforms, they're there to serve the British people. They want to spy and they want to survey and then say that all that they're doing is an act of love and kindness for immigrants. They don't care about the people of this own country. They don't care about the children at all. It's I can't get over it in my head. Yeah, absolutely. Set your mind on things above. Hi, Mian. Good to see you. Hi, Laurie. Great to have you here with us. Yeah, exactly, Wenkai. When we have to fight our own government and its army and the police forces to try and save our country is absolutely sad time that is. These are the guys that are public, you know, figures. You know, their entire lives should be open and transparent, but no, they serve the father of lies. They want to operate in evil and deceit and darkness. They want to serve Satan, who is nothing but a liar and a thief and a murderer. Have they been promised some sort of like, you know, win and victory or something of that sort? Has that been the deception that he's told them? Because I can't find anywhere in my Bible where Father God's ever lied. Father God has said something and it's never not happened. As we read in his holy word, heaven and earth will pass away, but his words will never, ever pass away. This climate lie, this lie that the world's overpopulated, that we're doing all of these sorts of things for our safety. Let's finish with some scripture here, guys, if we may. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. Acts 4:12, and there is salvation in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved. Ephesians 2:8-9, for by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. John 14:6, Jesus said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Romans 10:9, because if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Some absolutely beautiful scripture here for us, guys. Hebrews 9:28. We'll leave it here. Hebrews 9:28. So Christ, having been offered once to bear the sin of many, will appear a second time, not to deal with sin, but to save those who are eagerly awaiting for him. Amen. That's our blessed hope, is it not? So in a moment, guys, I'm going to put a thumbnail on this particular video, and then there'll be another 2 posts as well relating to our subject, exposing the sort of like Great Reset as well. Please see our other 3 posts today as well. And on our Rumble, there was a video put up yesterday, literally turning around with NASA finally owning up and saying and admitting that they did not land on the moon. So you might want to go and check that particular video out. But thank you, guys. As always, I'm almost about to lose my voice, but we take Saturdays off here as a channel family. So we will see you again, should we be here on Sunday. Thank you, team. And thank you, guys, for the pleasure of your company and all those that come in after. God bless you. And we'll talk again soon. All right. Bye.